No one in the town saw the old stranger arrive. No one saw him fall either. The storm hit everything. The sky tearing open with thunder, rain beating the road flat, and the desert wind screaming like something alive. But behind Luke Carter's tavern, in the dark where broken crates and sand met in silence, an old alien collapsed and waited to die. Luke Carter had owned the tavern for 7 quiet years. It stood alone by a dry, cracked highway that most travelers avoided now. Trucks passed less often. Tourists never came. The town near it barely lived anymore. Just a few houses, a tired gas station, and the glow of windows that shut early. Luke liked it that way. He opened his tavern every afternoon and closed long after midnight. He served beer, soup, and whatever food he could make with what little came in on the supply truck. He listened more than he talked. People in town said Luke was kind, but distant too. The type of man who remembered your favorite drink, but never spoke about his past. That night, the storm came without warning. Rain slammed the roof so hard it drowned out the radio. The lights flickered once, then twice. Luke wiped his hands on a rag and looked around the empty room. Only one customer had come in earlier, and he left before the thunder got bad. Luke locked the front door early. The wind howled through cracks in the old building like someone whispering in a long hallway. He grabbed his jacket and walked out back to check the generator. The rain soaked him in seconds. His boots sank into wet sand as he stepped toward the storage shed. Lightning lit the desert in sharp white pieces. Shadows jumped. The world felt unreal. Then he saw something move. At first he thought it was a stray dog. Maybe a coyote. They came close in storms sometimes, hungry and scared. But this shape was wrong. It was too thin, too tall. And when lightning flashed again, Luke froze. Something lay by the shed wall, shaking. Its skin was dark and rough, not fur and not leather. Its arms were too long. Its head was shaped strangely, with deep lines that glowed faintly blue in the dark. Luke's heart slammed into his chest. The thing lifted its face slowly. Its eyes were large, glowing, tired. Its mouth opened and spoke. "Please," the voice said, broken and dry. "Do not tell. Not them." Luke did not breathe for a long moment. His hand went to his pocket where his phone Saturday one call. One picture. The government would come in minutes. But he didn't reach for it. The alien tried to move and failed. His body shook harder, like it was freezing from the inside out. Luke swore quietly and ran forward. He didn't think. He just acted. He slung an arm under the creature's shoulders. It weighed almost nothing. "Easy," Luke whispered. "I've got you." He half-dragged, half-carried the alien into the tavern through the back door. The warm air inside hit them both. He laid the old being on the floor near the restroom and locked every door. For a minute he just stared. He had seen strange things in his life. Accidents, fights, bleeding people. Never this. He fetched a blanket and wrapped it around the shaking body. When he touched the alien's skin, it felt like cold stone. "Can you understand me?" Luke asked. The glowing eyes blinked slowly. "Some, not all," the alien said. "Learning too late." Luke got water and tried to help it drink. Much of it spilled. "What happened to you?" The alien's mouth twitched. "Run," it whispered. "Always run. But there is no far." Luke swallowed and nodded. "You're safe here. For now." The alien's eyes closed. Luke cleaned blood from the floor. It was dark, almost black, thick. He stayed awake all night. By morning, the storm had passed. The desert looked clean and empty, like nothing had ever touched it. But something had, and it was under his roof. He hid the alien in the cellar beneath the tavern. Hardly anyone knew it existed. He used it only to store old barrels and broken chairs. Now it became something else. A refuge. A secret. When the alien woke, Luke brought soup and bread. "Thank you," the creature whispered. "What's your name?" Luke asked. The alien tilted his head as if remembering something long forgotten. "Varroin," he said. Luke nodded. "I'm Luke." Varroin studied him with tired eyes. "Why help?" Varroin asked. Luke thought for a moment. "Because someone should." Verwin gave a small sound that might have been a laugh. Or a cry. That night became the first of many. Every evening after closing, Luke carried food downstairs. Soup, water, anything he had. Verwin ate slowly, weakly. He spoke little. When he did, his words came like pieces of a broken picture. My people gone. They were light. Now only dark. Luke listened. What dark? He asked. Verwin's eyes glowed brighter. The quiet dark, he whispered. Luke felt cold that had nothing to do with temperature. It eats, Verwin said. Worlds, stars, memories. Luke tried to smile. You're safe here. Earth is boring. Nothing comes here. Verwin slowly shook his head. It always comes. In the town, strange things began. Radios cut out. One night, the sky shimmered just for a second. Luke found dead birds by the road, unmarked. Verwin watched the cellar ceiling like it might fall open at any moment. They will find me, he whispered one night. Who? Luke asked. The Watchers. Luke frowned. Men? Not men, Verwin said. We're men. That stayed with Luke. And then one afternoon, as Luke wiped down the counter, something unfamiliar rolled past the tavern. Large black vehicles. No markings. Windows too dark to see through. They did not stop, but they slowed. And Luke knew. The quiet town had been noticed. Something had woken up. And it was looking for the old alien beneath his floor. Luke carried down food that night, hands shaking just a little. They are here, he told Verwin. Verwin closed his eyes. I am sorry, he whispered. I did not mean to bring ruin. Luke sat beside him. You didn't, he said. Whatever's coming. It was coming anyway. Above them, the tavern creaked in the desert wind. And far away, engines hummed in the dark. Something old had noticed something small. And Earth was no longer alone. The first thing Luke noticed was the silence on the road. No trucks. No engines. No distant hum from the highway. It was as if the desert itself was holding its breath. Luke opened the tavern early that morning, even though he expected no customers. He needed the routine, pouring water into the sink, wiping tables, checking the empty room, anything to make life feel normal. Below his feet, behind a locked cellar door, an old alien waited. Verwin had grown weaker overnight. When Luke brought down soup, the old being barely touched it. It is closer, Verwin whispered. Luke tried to hide the fear in his voice. What is closer? The Watchers, and what they serve. Luke sat beside him, the wooden steps cold beneath his legs. Start from the beginning, he said gently. Tell me what you can. Verwin stared into the dark corner of the cellar, as if seeing something that was not there. My people were not always small, he said. We built cities inside stars. We folded light like cloth. We thought we were safe. Luke listened, barely blinking. Then the quiet dark came, Verwin continued. Not with fire, not with armies. Came with silence. Whole systems went empty overnight. No sound, no energy, only dust. Luke swallowed. And your people? Verwin's glowing eyes dimmed. Gone. I fled with others. But there are not many now. Maybe none. Luke leaned back against the wall, feeling very small in a universe he had never thought much about. Upstairs, the bell over the door rang. Luke froze. Verwin lifted his head sharply. They are near, he whispered. Luke climbed the stairs slowly, every step loud in his own ears. He reached the bar and forced his face into calm. Only one person stood there, Mary Hudson. She worked part-time at the gas station and sometimes helped Luke when the tavern was busier. She had kind eyes and a sharp way of noticing things. You're open early, she said. Luke gave a small smile. Couldn't sleep. Mary glanced around the empty room. Neither could half the town, she replied. Did you hear the radios last night? Luke shook his head. Nothing works, Mary said. The gas station lost power for an hour. And old Mr. Harris swears he saw lights dancing over his field. Luke forced a quiet laugh. Mr. Harris needs new glasses. Mary didn't laugh back. Something's wrong, Luke. Before he could answer, another sound came from outside. Engines. Low. Slow. Mary moved to the window. Luke's heart dropped. Two black vehicles rolled past the tavern, smooth as shadows. No plates. Windows dark as night. Mary frowned. Government. Luke shrugged. No idea. But inside he knew. Those weren't passing through. They were hunting. Mary left soon after, clearly unsettled. Luke watched her go, then locked the door behind her. The rest of the day stretched long and quiet. No customers. No sound but the ticking clock and distant wind. Near evening, Luke heard a soft knock at the back door. His body went cold. He grabbed the old baseball bat under the counter and approached slowly. Another knock. Then a voice. "Mr. Carter?" Luke opened the door an inch. A tall man stood there in a dark jacket. His eyes were sharp. Too sharp. "Who's asking?" Luke said. "Officer Daniels," the man replied, holding up a badge. "Mind if I ask a few questions?" Luke's throat tightened. "About what?" Daniels smiled without warmth. "Strange things on your property." Luke forced a shrug. "Only strange thing here is the beer." Daniel's eyes drifted past him, into the tavern. "Mind if I take a look?" Luke's heart screamed no, but he stepped aside. "Be my guest." Daniels walked in slowly, like a man entering familiar territory. "Quiet place," he said. "That's how I like it." Daniels looked at the floor, listened. Luke held his breath. A long moment passed. Daniels nodded once. "Thank you for your time," and left. Luke locked the door behind him and collapsed against it. He ran down to the cellar. "We're not alone anymore," he whispered. Varwin closed his eyes. "They will come again." That night, lights flickered across the desert like dying stars. Dogs howled. And somewhere far underground, something old shifted in its sleep. Luke sat at the cellar steps until dawn, wondering how long one man could hide a secret meant for the universe. The second knock did not sound like a question. It sounded like a warning. Luke was in the cellar when it came, sitting on the step with his elbows on his knees. Varwin lay under a thin blanket, his thin chest rising slowly. Knock. Both of them looked up. Knock. Harder this time. Varwin's eyes glowed brighter. "They are here for me," he whispered. "Not you. You must send me away." Luke stood up at once. "No." Another knock, loud enough to shake dust from the ceiling. Luke ran upstairs and stopped in the middle of the tavern. The room felt smaller than it ever had before. He could almost feel eyes through the walls. He went to the front door. "I'm coming," he called. He opened it. Officer Daniels stood there again. This time he was not alone. Two other men waited behind him, dressed in the same dark clothes. A black vehicle idled at the side of the road. Another waited across the street. "Mr. Carter," Daniels said calmly. "Sorry to disturb you again." Luke forced a tired smile. "Busy night for you." Daniels looked past him into the tavern. "May we come in?" Luke stepped aside. They entered quietly, their boots making soft sounds on the wooden floor. Daniels walked around the room slowly, touching the bar with his fingers as if it belonged to him already. "Quiet place," he repeated. "I like it that way," Luke replied. "So do we," Daniels said. One of the other agents moved toward the cellar door. Luke's breath caught. "That's off limits," Luke said. Too quickly. Daniels raised an eyebrow. "Storage. Just junk," Luke replied. "Nothing worth seeing." "Then you won't mind if we look." Luke stepped forward, heart pounding. "Actually, I do." For the first time, Daniel's smile faded. "Mr. Carter," he said softly, "you've been a very quiet man for a long time. No trouble. No questions. No reports." Luke said nothing. "People like you are either hiding something," Daniels continued, "or protecting someone." Luke swallowed. "There's no one here but me." Just then, a sound drifted up from below, soft, like a breath catching. One agent turned sharply toward the cellar door, but Daniels lifted one hand, stopping him. His eyes locked on Luke's face. "What was that?" Luke forced a small laugh. Old pipes. Daniels stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. We'll be back, he said. Count on it. And just like that, they left. Luke collapsed against the bar and slid down to the floor. His hands were shaking. He ran downstairs. They heard you, he whispered. Verwin's glow had dimmed. It is time, the old alien said. They do not work only for your kind. They serve a deeper shadow. Luke sat beside him. Then tell me what they want. Verwin closed his eyes. Me, but not for who I am. For what I carry. Luke frowned. Carry? Verwin slowly placed a thin hand over his own chest. Inside me is a key, he whispered. Not metal. Not machine. Living. Luke leaned back. A key to what? Verwin's eyes opened. To your world. Luke felt the air leave his lungs. Earth? Verwin nodded. Your planet is not small. Not simple. It is sleeping. Above them, a low hum rolled through the ground. Luke looked up sharply. What was that? Verwin listened. Fear painting every line on his face. The Watchers are waking the locks. Luke jumped to his feet. Then we have to leave. No, Verwin said softly. Running never saved anyone. Luke grabbed his jacket. Then hiding will. He helped Verwin to his feet. The old alien leaned heavily against him. Just then, the tavern lights flickered and went dead. Outside, engines roared. Tires crushed gravel. Luke froze. Verwin whispered. Too late. Heavy footsteps hit the back door. Luke pulled Verwin toward the deepest corner of the cellar. With splintered above. Men shouted. Flashlights cut through the dark like blades. Luke pressed Verwin behind a stack of old barrels and stepped in front of him. Stay quiet, he whispered. Boots thundered on the stairs. The cellar door slammed open. Light flooded in. Clear! A voice barked. Luke raised his hands. There's no one here but me, he said loudly. Then a gentle voice answered from the shadows. That's not what our instruments say. Officer Daniels stepped into the cellar. His eyes went straight to the glow. For the first time he looked uneasy. Found you, he said quietly. Verwin lifted his face into the light. And so did you, the old alien replied. Above them the tavern groaned like something wounded. And outside, the desert filled with engines and silence. One man, one alien, and a door the universe wished had never been opened. When Luke opened his eyes, the tavern was gone. The smell of old wood and beer had been replaced with cold metal and sharp air. Bright white light burned above him. Something tight was around his wrists. For a moment he thought he was dead. Then the pain came. His head throbbed. His mouth was dry. And when he tried to move, his arms refused. Luke blinked and saw a dark room around him. No windows. Only smooth walls and a narrow table bolted to the floor. Somewhere far away, a low hum filled the air, like a giant machine breathing in its sleep. A door slid open without a sound. Officer Daniels walked in. He carried no badge now, only a small device in his hand that blinked red. You're awake, he said. Luke pulled against the restraints. Where is he? Daniels tilted his head. Still alive. For now. Luke leaned forward as much as the straps allowed. Don't touch him. You don't get to make rules here, Daniels replied calmly. Not anymore. He sat across from Luke and placed the blinking device on the table. Do you know where you are? Luke looked around. Some kind of base. Under your feet, Daniels said. Deeper than you think. Luke frowned. There's a facility beneath your town. One no map shows. One that's been here longer than the town itself. Luke felt a slow chill crawl up his back. That's not possible. It is, Daniels said. And you built your tavern on top of its front door. Luke's mouth went dry. Verwin was never hiding from us, Daniels continued. He was hiding from what's down here. Luke shook his head. Then why hunt him? Because he isn't just an alien, Daniels said. He's a key. Daniels leaned forward. The old one carries something inside him. Something designed to open what we have spent 100 years trying to keep shut. What? Luke whispered. Daniels pushed a button on the table. The wall behind him lit up. Images appeared. Stars dying. Planets turning dark. Something vast moving through space like living night. Luke's chest tightened. That, Daniels said quietly, is the quiet dark. Luke stared at the screen, unable to speak. Earth was built as a lock, Daniels continued. A cage dressed as a planet. Your world is not just a home. It is a prison. Luke laughed weakly. That's insane. So was the idea of flying once, Daniels replied. He touched another control. The image zoomed in on a glowing shape buried deep inside the planet. This is the core, Daniels said. Older than your species. Older than ours. It holds the thing that ended Veruin's people. Luke closed his eyes. Then why keep it here? Because nothing else could hold it, Daniels said. Not a star. Not a black hole. Only a living world could keep it asleep. Luke inhaled slowly. And Veruin? Daniels smiled thinly. He is the final key. The last of his kind still alive. Inside him is a living code. The command that can either wake the prison or seal it forever. Luke's heart pounded. You don't need him, he said. You just want control. For the first time, Daniels showed something else on his face. Fear. Control is the only thing that keeps us alive, he said quietly. He stood up. And you, Mr. Carter, are a problem. Luke lifted his head. Why? Because I fed him? Because you listened, Daniels replied. And because he trusts you. Luke's pulse slowed. He saw it then. They were afraid. The entire system beneath his town was afraid. Let me see him, Luke said. No. Then you'll get nothing from me. Silence stretched. Finally, Daniel sighed. 1 minute. Another door opened. Veruin was brought inside. He looked smaller than ever. Wires were wrapped around his thin arms. His glow was faint, like dying fire. Luke, he whispered. Luke pushed against the straps. I'm here. Veruin turned tired eyes toward Daniels. You fear what you do not understand, he said. Daniels shook his head. We fear extinction. Then you and I are the same, Veruin replied. Veruin looked back at Luke. The choice must not be theirs, he whispered. It must be human. Luke frowned. Choice. Veruin slowly placed his hand over his chest. When the door opens, it will obey you. Luke felt his breath catch. Me? You showed mercy, Veruin replied. That is the mark. Daniels snapped his fingers and agents pulled Veruin away. Enough, he said. Luke shouted as they dragged the old alien from the room. Don't hurt him. And then the door closed, leaving Luke alone. Above and below him, machines began to wake. Lights rolled through endless halls beneath the desert. Something ancient stirred, and far beyond Earth something else noticed. For the first time in a very long time, the quiet dark smiled. All across the planet, at the exact same moment, the lights went out. In cities, towers went dark like dying candles. In deserts, strange windstorms began to howl. On the seas, the waves rose higher than they ever had before. And deep beneath a small tavern in the middle of nowhere, something ancient opened one eye. Luke sat alone in the room, his wrists still bound to the chair. The humming around him had grown louder, like 1,000 engines buried in the earth were starting all at once. His door slid open. A young woman stepped inside. She wore no uniform, no badge, only a plain dark jacket and tired eyes. I won't hurt you, she said softly. Luke looked up, unsure whether to believe her. Who are you? Emma Brooks. She unlocked one of his restraints. You shouldn't be doing that, Luke said. I know, Emma replied. That's why I am. She freed his hands quickly. They're waking the core, she whispered. Daniels thinks he can control it. Luke stood, dizzy but angry. Where is Veruin? Emma hesitated. They took him deeper. Luke clenched his fists. Take me to him. Emma nodded. Follow me, and stay quiet. Alarms pulsed faintly through the halls as they moved. Red lights slid along metal walls. Doors opened and shut by themselves. "How do you know all this?" Luke asked. Emma ran beside him. "My father built parts of this place. He used to say Earth was never just a planet." "Why help me?" Emma looked at him. "Because you treated him like a person." They turned a corner and froze. Veruin hung in a ring of light. Wires reached into his body. Machines pressed close like metal insects. Luke tried to run forward. "Stop!" Emma whispered. But it was too late. Veruin opened one glowing eye. "Luke!" he breathed. Luke rushed to his side. "I'm here," he said. Veruin smiled weakly. "The door is opening," he whispered. "I am closing." Emma worked fast, tearing wires loose. Alarms screamed louder. "You'll kill him," Luke shouted. "They already are," Emma said. Suddenly the lights far above flickered. Somewhere above the base the ground shook. Luke held Veruin's thin hand. "Stay with me," he begged. Veruin shook his head slowly. "If I stay, the lock fails." "Then what do I do?" Luke asked. Veruin's eyes glowed brighter than ever. "You must choose when the door is reached." Emma gasped. "What door?" Veruin looked to the ground. "The heart of the world." Before Luke could speak, boots thundered. Daniels stepped into the room. His face was tight, almost wild. "Step away from the asset," he barked. Luke stepped in front of Veruin. "He's not an asset. He's dying." Daniels raised his weapon. Emma stood beside Luke. "This ends now," she said. Daniels laughed bitterly. "You think mercy wins wars?" "No," Luke said. "But it saves worlds." Daniels lunged. Something massive shook the base. Lights exploded overhead. Sirens wailed. Veruin cried out as energy surged through him. "Now!" Emma shouted. She slammed a switch. The machine holding Veruin broke open. He collapsed into Luke's arms. "It is time," Veruin whispered with fading breath. "The door is open." Luke looked at Emma. "Where is it?" She pointed down the corridor. "Below everything." Behind them, Daniel screamed orders. Above them, the planet cracked like ice under pressure. And somewhere in the dark of space, something very old turned its gaze toward Earth. Far beneath the Earth, where no map had ever reached, Luke Carter stood before a door that did not look like a door. It was not made of metal or stone. It was made of light. It rose from the floor like a wall of liquid stars, moving slowly as if it was breathing. Strange marks flowed across its surface like living symbols. The air was warm and alive, and each breath felt heavy in Luke's chest. Behind him, the ground shook again. Somewhere above, the world was breaking. Luke held Veruin in his arms as Emma helped guide them forward. The old alien was barely conscious now. His glow came in weak pulses, like a dying fire. "This is it," Emma whispered. Luke nodded. "The heart of the world," Veruin whispered. "The lock that holds the dark." Luke stepped closer. He felt it before he touched it. Not heat, not cold. Memory. He saw pictures in his mind. Worlds burning, stars collapsing, people he did not know screaming into silence. Luke staggered. Emma caught him. "Stay with me," she said. Luke took another step. "What do I do?" he asked. Veruin lifted his trembling hand and placed it against Luke's chest. "You choose," he whispered. "Not as ruler, not as soldier, as human." Luke swallowed. "Choose what?" "Hope," Veruin replied. Behind them, boots thundered. Daniels and his men burst into the chamber, weapons raised. "Step away from the door," Daniels shouted. Luke did not turn. Emma stood between the agents and Luke. "He's ending this," she said. Daniels laughed sharply. "There is no end. Only control." Luke placed his hand into the light. It did not burn. It welcomed him. Suddenly the room vanished. He stood in a different place. A vast empty space filled with stars and moving shadows. Then a presence appeared. It was not a shape. It was a feeling. Old, hungry, endless. "You are small," the quiet dark whispered inside his mind. "You are late." Luke stood taller. "Maybe," he said softly, "but I'm here." Images crashed into him, cities erased, children gone, names forgotten. You cannot win, the darkness said. Luke closed his eyes. Then he thought of his tavern, of warm light through dusty windows, of soup on cold nights, of a stranger who came hungry and afraid, and of the simple choice he made. I don't have to win, Luke said quietly. I just have to keep you out. Light poured through him. Back in the chamber, the door flared brighter than the sun. Energy rolled through the underground base. Walls shook. Machines died. Above, the sky split open with color. The quiet dark screamed. Not in sound. In loss. Luke felt the world answer him. Not as a weapon. As a shield. Varrowan opened his eyes one last time. He smiled. You did it, he whispered. And then, softly, he was gone. Light swallowed the chamber. When it faded, silence remained. Luke collapsed to his knees. Emma ran to him. Is it over? She asked. Luke looked at the door. It was no longer light. It was stone. Quiet. Closed. Yes, he said. High above, power returned. Cities lit up. Storms faded. The seas calmed. Across the world, people stared at the sky and felt something lift from their hearts, even if they did not know why. Weeks later, the tavern reopened. The government closed the road and sealed the land, but one small building remained. Inside, Luke served soup again, and sometimes, when the night was quiet, he thought he felt the world breathing around him. Alive, watching, protecting, and somewhere far beyond the stars, alien worlds whispered a new name. The Keeper.